capability. I will have to also record the session just to ensure that we have access that may not make it, or those that may want to look at it some other time. There is need to ensure that they will have access. Okay, so basically, chapter 3 focuses on organizational project capability. And these are the outcomes. You ought to be able to critically evaluate the classical organization or project structures, identify and be able also to recommend an appropriate project structure for an organization, identify future demands on project structures. You should be in a position to interpret organizational dynamics on project structures, should be able to discuss the use of innovation and creativity in establishing a competent project structure. You should be able to discuss a single and a double loop learning in a project environment, and also to contrast the current roles in a project structure, a project team, with the future demands placed on projects, and also manage the unknowable in projects. So these are basic outcomes. Coming to the introduction, for an organization to improve their competitive advantage, they need to undertake projects that will lead to the process, lead to process and quality improvements within their business. So project selection is important, but once that is done, the projects that are undertaken should actually lead to process and quality improvements within the organization. There is also need to continuously identify opportunities and to improve and deliver projects that support the goals of the organization. The organizational structure affects how projects are delivered and how the organization resources these projects given time, their scope, and also cost constraints. Coming to the review of classical structure theories, there's that belief that all organizations need to be structured in a functional way to improve the speed of production for goods. And this was founded on the work of Taylor and Fayon in the late 19th and 20th centuries. I'm sure you know of Frederick Taylor and Henry Fayon, who are the classical theorists basically in management. So we also apply those even in project management. Increased complexity and speed of change in the 20th and also in the 21st centuries have led to a need for more flexibility and responsiveness within the organization. And the project manager now needs to manage in a complex environment, and is influenced by significant technological and organizational change. Lots of things are changing. The way we do things is changing. If you studied long back and you thought you had skills, maybe this is the time also to relearn other things, and we may also be forced to unlearn other things, especially with technology evolving. So there is need to keep abreast with changes in the environments that we find ourselves in. There are various traditional ways in which organizations structure themselves to manage themselves and their projects. We have functional organizational structure, where these are structured depending on the functions that you find in the organization. Then there is also process organizational structures, which are basically structured following the processes that are undertaken in the organization. Then there is also the project organizational structure, Then we also have a matrix organizational structure which combines some of those structures. And there is now what is known as the virtual organizational structure. And the virtual, it would have been difficult to explain it before 2019. But now the term virtual has become common knowledge. So these are explained briefly. That a functional organizational structure is an organizational structure that is built around the functional activities within the organization. So you may find the human resources function, the financial management function, the operations function, and so forth. And in this particular structure, the project manager may even be one of the functional managers responsible for managing functions. This structure is seen as operationally efficient and allows for individual employees to focus on on core skills and deliver associated efficiencies in the organization. This is an example of a functional organizational structure based mainly on the functions of the organization. Advantages, these you can go through them on your own. What is important for me is for you to just basically grab the concept of how that particular structure is structured, but these have been summarized for you in table 3.1. The functional organizational structure, the both advantages and disadvantages, which you then find here, that it may be a challenge also to have that particular structure. Then we also have a process organizational structure, whereby groups, this one, it groups each organizational function into a department, then each department then contributes to the delivery of a specific function-specific process. For example, human resources and each department contributes to the delivery of specific human resources processes needed for project delivery. However, in a risk management project, the HR team would focus on the risks that influence people in the organization. For example, there are health and safety risks and so forth. So those process organizational structures, they are more focused on processes than on functions. And this is a typical example that is also depicted on figure 3.2 of your textbook. It also has its own advantages and disadvantages, which you should go through when you find time. Then we also have project organization structure. Projects are managed and dedicated, they are managed with dedicated teams of staff who represent their function within the organization. And these teams are dedicated to the project, and the team members do not have business as usual roles or responsibilities. In some cases, staff may work on multiple projects given their resource availability. So this is more focused on project organization, not on functions or not on processes. But now different functions may actually bring in their people who are focused on the project or to contribute to the success of a project. And it's also depicted on figure 3.3, its advantages as well as its own disadvantages, which you should also take note of and which you should also know. Then there is matrix organizational structure. This allocates employees to both functional areas and specific projects, and attempts to combine the best attributes of both project structure and the functional structure in order to maximize efficiency and effectiveness. So it combines those two structures. And the goal is to take advantage of the strengths as well as to make up the weaknesses of functional and decentralized structures. This is a typical matrix organizational structure as depicted on figure 3.4 of your textbook. Is that it also has its advantages and its own disadvantages. And it's also important that you take time to study these so that you will be in a position to answer questions. With the virtual organization structure, team members work on projects which are not localized and even span across countries, and time zones can be challenging and difficult to manage. So you do it online. The project manager needs to be able to communicate and coordinate the work of multiple people or teams across various locations. These virtual teams are therefore formed and need to be managed using the available technology such as emails, video conferencing. That was the time when the textbook was written. But now there are many other platforms that can be used, or many other video conferencing platforms or tools that can actually be used. Virtual teams are now common. People can run projects together from different locations, different countries, different continents, world over. This is the basic depiction of the virtual organization structure. You will find it also on figure 3.5 of the textbook. Its advantages, disadvantages. Coming to choosing the most appropriate organizational structure. When choosing an organizational structure, one need the needs of the organization need to be taken or need to be balanced against the needs of the project. And the design and evolution of the organizational structure is an evolutionary and continuous process. Things are continuing to change and they will continue to change. A simple design is needed to implement simple strategies, while more complex designs are necessary when more complex and intricate organizational strategy need to be implemented. There are also important components of the project organization. One being, in order to manage projects, the organization often relies on a set of processes or structures and their associated tools and techniques to effectively manage projects. They are very useful and important tools that can be used to manage these projects efficiently. There are also project structures for the future, where we are saying the success of a project or project depends heavily on the organization's capability to deliver, given the existing resources that they have. In as much as they may be limited, but the project team should be in a position to deliver. Project managers and project teams are skilled and motivated to deliver against project goals and objectives, or those who are skilled to deliver against project goals and objectives will define the success of projects they work on. The organization needs to buy in to the project or to the project structure and to provide appropriate and dynamic leadership in all the project phases. The organization also needs to support the project delivery process as well as the day-to-day activities to maintain balance and to ensure that projects do not distract from delivery of business as usual objectives, or that business as usual objectives do not distract on the running of the projects in the organization. There are also new organizational dynamics that project managers should actually understand the changing nature of the organization and the socio-political business environment, which you cannot control, in which the organization operates, means that the traditional view of organizational planning is no longer always acceptable. The traditional vision and mission statements, which direct the organization in the short and medium term, and which define the operational goals and objectives, are being questioned by stakeholders. Even managers and employees tend to now question those on whether they are just nice to have or they are actually meaningful. Project culture and creativity, these differ from organization to organization. These differ also from project to project. However, we need to have an understanding of what we mean by creativity, which is basically the phenomenon where a person creates something new. Also, you need to understand culture. Culture is made up of beliefs and ritual behaviors that change the way in which individuals may support a process or a procedure. Then a project culture is basically a set of beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors that exist independently of the individual in the project. It is important to understand project culture because project culture is important as it facilitates the induction process for new project team members and the changing of teams during the planning and delivery phases. A well-defined and mature project culture is maintained as people leave or join the organization or the project. This means that the behavior of team members is aligned with the culture and doesn't change as team members leave or as new team members join. A large project will also benefit from a strong culture as it avoids behaviors that are not supportive of the project goals and objectives and which may distract other team members from the project performance. There are also other aspects that are still undiscovered in project culture. For example, the culture of personality of the project team is something that may set it apart from competition and allows a sense of identity to develop between team members. Project culture can, however, not be seen as static or tick the box objective when a project is defined or planned. These are things that change. Culture is by its very nature variable and needs to be allowed to develop and also to mature. There is also need to learn group behavior and learning in projects. How does it take place? Why is it important? Then the roles in the project team, each project team should have different people with different roles. So there's need for other people to be leaders. There's need also for other people to be followers. For everyone in the team should have a responsibility. So the roles and descriptions are provided. Examples of such are provided on table 3.6, that you can have a project sponsor or director. There may be other members of the executive committee, members of the steering committee, project manager, the project office, the team leaders, and also the project team members. So it's important also to understand that these roles are important and people should also be in the work according to their roles. Projects are now being managed in uncertain times. Things are changing. People are managing the unknowable. Things that we never anticipated are happening. How do we go about it? As project management students, you also need to understand that project managers need to be able to manage and lead in all types of projects environments. including where there are geopolitical uncertainties, where there is social and economic uncertainties, where the environment is complex but critical part of the success of the project. Someone needs to be managing a project there. But this requires strong and dynamic people, both in the manager role and even the stakeholders or the team members. Something that can no longer be avoided. And that takes us to the summary, where we basically saying project capability is more than just about the team capability. It encompasses the organizational and project structures, as well as the strategy and culture of the organization and the team project. The systems in place within the project are critical to the success of the project, and the trend towards uncertain futures also has a significant impact on the dynamic nature of the project environment. Organizational dynamics has a significant role in the project structure and the way in which the team is recruited and trained. We are also saying innovation and creativity are important to project success, and they have an important influence on the project structure. Learning is important and needs to encompass single, double, and even triple loop learning. That is it. So we have covered chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. That makes your unit 1. Thank you so much. If you have questions, please let us discuss them in the chat. Let us also discuss them in the discussion forums. Thank you.